Johnson.
Here.
Lees.
Here.
Young.
Here.
All right, we have a short agenda tonight, so I would like a motion to approve the agenda as it stands.
So move.
Support.
Motion and support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. The motion is approved. With two items here and the number of citizens, I believe that what I should say first off is that you're more than welcome to come up, just state your name and address in your concerns. I would ask that if you hear somebody else make some of the same points that you do, that you just simply say, I agree with whoever spoke ahead of you. But otherwise, you're free to add anything new that you want to into citizen inquiries. So, do I have someone who'd like to come up to the mic and sit down?
Mr. Mayor, my name is Jerry Johnson. I live on Park Place, West Burlington, Iowa. And my concern here tonight is the dump properties out by the new water tower concerning leaves and limbs that we have thoroughly enjoyed even when they had it back here. And I'm understanding that there are some non-residents dumping there, which I don't like, but I still would like to keep that area open for us if there's some good, respectable way to maintain it and manage it and patrol it. That's my main concern.
Okay. Thank you.
I agree.
You agree? All right.
I agree. I'm Chris Crable. I live at 106 West Van Wees, and I agree with Jerry Johnson on what he mentioned.
Okay.
I'm Jerry Walker. I live at 722 Melville Avenue. And yeah, I agree with Mr. Johnson's statement. I would like to add that I have a pickup and I can get out to the landfill. I don't have a problem with getting rid of stuff. My main concern is whenever I've been to the area where we put the leaves and that, there's always older women that come in there, they got their car and they got a big bag in there and it's leaves and that. And I think it'd be handicapped for them to have to drive clear out there to do it. And I'm sure they can put some of them into the trash cans for Levine to pick up, but I just kind of feel sorry for them that a lot of times they have so much in there. If you're there and catch them, you can help them dump it, you know. And they always appreciate that. But that was one of the concerns I had with just coming in here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank you people for what you do for our city, because it's probably a thankless job, but somebody's got to do it. Thanks. Thanks again.
Joe Beam, 701 Park Place. I'm probably one of the newest members of this city to come and speak tonight. I think everybody else has been here their entire life. A little bit of my background: I'm from Mount Pleasant originally. I sat on the city council of Mount Pleasant for 16 years. For those 16 years, I was head of Park and Rec. So this fell directly underneath me. I worked very hard to keep a couple of things going in Mount Pleasant, and they did keep going, and I think they're still going today. Number one, a place for people who cannot or do not have a truck to be able to get there, if they have a car with a bag, to get their stuff there or have somebody get it there. That was one of the big things of having the leaf and grass and small twigs area so that we could keep our town clean. To me, that's the number one thing, keeping our town clean. I do have another off-branch thing. I had a fire today. I started it myself. The gentleman came and saw me and told me I had to have a permit. At that point, I didn't know I had to have one. Personally, if you're burning small leaves, small group of leaves, or you're burning off some grass, should not need to pay $25 to do that, period. I was taken care of behind my fence, keeping the weeds down. Jerry gave me some Roundup to take care of it. Okay, it was dry. I raked it away from my fence so it wouldn't bother my fence. I kept it controlled. I had a water hose, which was a requirement of Mount Pleasant. I had a rake out there. I'm a former 12-year fireman. I've taken people out of houses dead. I've taken people out of houses alive. I've been the experienced fireman. I was an EMT for a while, so I understand a lot of this. I've got a good background in it. Even thought about sitting in her place, but when I saw she was running, I said no. We have to use our heads when we're sitting in positions like you are. We are the ones that make the rules, the regulations, and everything. And also, a law is not a law until it's tested in court. We all know that. Okay, my opinion on the leaf thing is we need to keep it. If you have to find the people of Burlington or out in the country or whatever that are coming, so it be. We had one in Mount Pleasant. It was open 2 nights a week. You don't know how I appreciate when I'm working that if I need to mow the yard to get the leaf or the grass out there right away. Because if you've ever held grass in bags or in a container, you know what it smells like in 24 to 48 hours. So we need to get rid of it right away. I wasn't quite used to this setup as far as normally we would read what we were going to discuss and then we would have open forum for it. So anyway, my opinion is keep it. We need to look at, I understand fires. I understand starting fires. I understand that you don't want large fires around. You don't want buildings burnt without permits. But to me, it's 100% ridiculous to pay $25 every time I want to burn that grass off. Because I'm actually taking care of the Ball property. When we came to town, the first thing when we bought the house, that the guys that took care of our pool said, get rid of those trees back there. So I walked over to the mall, talked to mall management. I said, I'd like to get rid of those trees. Well, we won't do it. Can I do it? They said, yes, you take care of it. We don't want any expense. We don't want to pay for a fence that goes down or anything like that. From what I understand from talking to people, if you've got a tree that's going to fall on a building or a fence, they will get it down. But if you don't, then they won't. Well, these trees were junk trees that were growing up in there. Cleaned it all out. We have stumps in there. I can't mow it yet because of the stumps. I took a lot of them out, but not all of them are gone. My son and son-in-law and other son-in-law came down and helped me get this done. I had permission. I have permission. But I want to also be able to, if I need to burn that off and clean that up and keep that neat, as my wife wants me to do, that I can do that without paying $25 every time. Because we all know how fast weeds grow. I've cleaned that 3 times this year. First time I burned it because of all the grass that came up in there. So my big thing is I want to be able to do that. I also want to have a spot closer to town to get rid of that stuff, because when we cut all those trees down, I took it out to the dump, and it's a little further to take it, but I took the small stuff and put it in the in your grass leaf area. So that's my thought process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we will move into new business. First thing is we have yard waste disposal options that you should have had in your packet online if you need to go in to look at it right now. What I'd like to do is I know that all of us have opinions on how we like to handle this. So I think I'd like to go by having at first a motion so that we can go into actual discussion on this. And it could be something that we're going to vote down later on, but I would like a motion to start us off so we can have a discussion on it.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask one question of you first?
Certainly.
Just because of where we're at with the water tower, nothing that I'm reading at the moment talks about temporary issues or long-term. Are we voting for this year, or are we discussing what we want to do after this year?
I'm assuming that this is our long-term discussion. Unless the council sees differently, this would be what we're planning to do. If we can't because of the water tower issue, then we may hold on it. But I think the plan was that this was going to be our permanent solution.
It's been closed longer than said when it started, but it's because of problems with the tower and contractors and not having stuff cleared. They're working hard now. One bin's about empty, the other's going to be. So tonight, to me, is discuss what we're going to do from here forward.
Okay.
Once it's back in our control.
Once I'm.
Can't they open that second bin up though now. I mean, they can move that stuff out of there in a day, and we could start using that. There's no,
They could, but that
It's-
area is under their control.
It's their control, their work zone,
Project zone.
their
Their
work zone
the,
Company.
contractor.
Boomerang.
And if we have all this traffic coming in, they're in the work zone. If they back into them with a backhoe, then they're liable, and that's why they don't, it's been controlled since they've started the project. And unfortunately, the project has taken longer than what it was supposed to.
how much longer are they gonna be in there?
I cannot answer that at this point.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'll make the option to approve option number 4, the current public works site with the original same setup as we had 3 years ago, and if we want to discuss security options after that, that's fine, but that would be my route.
Okay, do I have a person who seconds that?
Support.
Motion and support. Then Let's have some discussion on this.
Your Honor, just a
Yes.
couple items. On number, I assume for everybody's purposes, number 2 is just a given. The yard waste options provided by Levine's. That's, to me, that's just a given. I mean, that doesn't go away, irregardless of the other options. Option number 4, a camera system catching violators, issuing citations. Now, exactly what that citation is going to be, I believe it's just a, did you say it was a parking? No.
No, that's for the,
Isn't it 500?
I'm not sure what the citation is for
You know what
the
the
illegal
citation
leave.
is?
It would be trespassing.
A trespassing citation, but perhaps we can recover our costs as well if they're illegally dumping in there. I think those items need to be added to that. I did like the option of perhaps limited hours that was noted publicly as well. But I would certainly suggest that we need to do all of those to enforce illegal dumping of trash, outside materials. As you can see, just in the short time that we've been doing it ourselves, our costs have gone down substantially as we do not have out-of-town folks illegally dumping on the site.
That just shows the citizens that do use it, that have been taking it to landfill while it's closed, and the difference between the illegal dumping that I deal with weekly, plus the pictures that you've been provided. That's a one-time thing. That's every week. Trash, garbage cans, tires, batteries that we have to pull out. And like I said, whether it's somebody on site as security, we fence the public works off with a gate that's shut when we're not there, or however, but it's not any savings to the citizens for what we're paying for all the illegal dumping.
It was my understanding that we had already purchased a new camera system.
There's a camera system in place out there. It doesn't do a very good job of catching the license plates.
I was told a year ago we voted and approved a new camera system for that, and I don't know that that ever got installed, but we did it.
Ask Brad where we're at on that.
Yep, here comes
Let's go.
Brad.
Alrighty, so that was for one plate camera. We had another plate camera fail, or not a plate camera, it was just a regular camera. We were maybe looking at maybe placing out with another plate camera so we could get both down.
It's
The mayor, he's the old mayor. But, yeah, so that was one camera that we had installed. I know the problem, I know that Jesse and I had with it. We spent, so there was somebody who dumped some sticks that the truck came back to Keokuk. We spent, what, 2 days with an officer and myself on it to track him down to find out he was just dumping for somebody from West Burlington. I mean, it's a lot of man hours to track these people down and then to find out that, they're just helping somebody in West Burlington.
So let me
It's-
ask you a question, and is it possible or not? If we went with a gate system, could you put something on our water bills that they could scan with the West Burlington and get in that way? to open the
Put a new
gate?
QR code on their bills every month, so they have to take.
The only
a-
problem with that is that we have commercial grass mowers in the city of West Burlington that say it's out of their yard and they're mowing other yards for money, so that is illegal for them to be dumping there.
Okay,
So you still have that problem.
okay.
It's just,
Just to go back though, we did purchase a camera system for out there right before it closed, correct?
yeah, just one camera. That one looks at the brush pile. So the brush pile, and it did a good job of getting that plate, didn't it?
Okay, so are we saying we need to order more cameras on top of that?
Well, we had one fail, so the one that's in there that focused on the grass, that one is broken. And
Okay.
it's up to you guys. I don't know what you pay annually to dump it, but is it worth spending another $2,000 on a camera? Are we gonna ever recoup that money with what we dump? And also, you gotta look at Jesse's man hours. I mean, he spent forever tracking them down just to find out it's a West Burlington resident. And it's kind of frustrating.
And I don't know how the cameras, how well they are at night, but there's a lot of dumping at night. I've been called in at 2 in the morning and there's 2 trucks back there emptying them out, raking a whole truckload of grass and stuff, and
I know I've done it at night.
I've done it
I mean,
I've done
Get
it at
home.
10 o'clock at night.
but that's what I'm saying. The people that are non-residents are doing it too, and that's what's affecting the residents that want the service. It's what it's costing the city for the non-residents, and how much do you want to spend to gate it and control it? That's going to cost the citizens again.
And are we to implement the gate control, are we ever gonna recoup the money that we're spending anyway? Because last I heard, wasn't it only like $3,000 for everybody's sticks to go to the?
Yeah, I guess
Dump?
that was my next question is, as I'm looking at this attachment, the 2019 number of the 2,745.60. So that was our total for the whole year, and that includes what we're saying was illegal dumping.
So Mike, how do we know that people
Was
from,
that a,
how do we know that people from other cities are dumping there?
We've stopped them when my employees are there and ask. We've called the police department out to investigate. I don't know of anybody's yard in town that's big enough to have a heaping truck full of dead grass to back up. When I come in the morning and there's a mound where somebody's emptied a dump trailer or a whole pickup, that's lawn services.
So we're seeing it on the film, and then you're calling. Is that right? We're
This
seeing it
last one with the new camera, yeah, that's how we did that. We called Brad
Yeah,
got
'cause it
hold of
was right
Jesse.
before we shut it down that we got that camera. So the first one was that guy who just dumped sticks there because he didn't realize it was closed. He was dumping it for his parents. And, so we went back, the truck came back to Keokuk, and then, by tracking it down, it was just a kid dumping for his parents.
And you gotta remember, this is not storm-related stuff either. We haven't had a storm this year. And I've been here in the city for 27 years. And me personally, not counting my 8 employees, what they've hauled, I've hauled enough brush to that landfill that we shouldn't need to worry about picking up leaves, because there shouldn't even be a tree in this town. The storm comes through, it's absolutely ridiculous. We come in the morning and it's clear out of the bins, out in the lot. It's not West Burlington citizens, so
Just to separate the two conversations for a minute, because I'm fully on board with the frustrations of the Public Works Department and the amount of work that's involved, but just to focus on the money side for a minute, we're talking about less than $2,000 a year in what we would say could be illegal.
Yeah. and
No,
the
that's not-
controls are gonna be
that's
way
not-
That's
more
not right.
money.
that's not correct. You're looking at landfill fees. If you look back on Greg's report, you'll see the cost of my employees and my equipment. You got about $18,000 a year that I spend removing this. When I drove that, and it's 1.2 miles from ours to the landfill road, and that's the amount of time my employees, that's not even counting the flat tires, the oil changes, and the fuel. That's just my labor and time. And like I've explained before, when I started here, I'm running with 5 less employees than what we did 27 years later, and we didn't have a hospital, the colleges tripled, we didn't have a super Walmart, and I'm struggling to try and keep my budget in line and do what's right for the citizens. And this is expense on my budget that I'm spending. And this isn't helping taxpayers spend this kind of money.
2-minute and 36-second
Yeah.
drive. I don't drive fast. Drove it again today and timed it, and it's right around the corner,
But you drove from there to the way station,
to the landfill.
to the way station,
Public Works and landfill.
to the landfill at the way station.
Yep. 2 minutes and 36 seconds.
So how long did you wait for another truck to come through?
I didn't have anything to dump, I just pulled.
Yeah, just pulled up there.
I've never heard the argument.
There was nobody ahead of me.
I guess the argument, I guess I did hear it a few times tonight, but the majority of the phone calls I had was the time that it was available out there. And that's why I always thought the best solution to this actually was to just have a better solution out there, but we can't change that. So,
Last time we asked.
Well, I think we
It was a
can.
no.
at the landfill.
I heard from the executive director today, he'd like to meet on a different topic, and then, so I asked to throw that topic back on the agenda, so he and I and the Burlington city manager are meeting next Tuesday.
Or like what was suggested earlier, if you could get them to stay open later, 2 nights a week, so when people got off work, they could deposit their stuff there too.
Mike, is there any way that we could control the situation well enough that if we say we're open with our facility, evening hours, 6 to 9 or something like that, or 2 days a week, that we could control that situation?
Not unless you paid somebody to stand there and ask for the water bills and run the commercial people off and the people from Beaverdale that are not supposed to be dumping there and the Burlington residents. We just had last week somebody come in, we had to put signs up, add more signs from Burlington to dump their brush where our concrete rubble is. And he said, well, I'm dumping here. And I said, where are you from? Well, I'm from Burlington. I said, you're not supposed to be here. Well, I always dump here. I mean, and it's harming these citizens that want this there. I mean, I understand where they're coming from too, but as far as me trying to do my job as a budget, and you look at what I'm spending to try and control this thing, and I can't control it, it's not working, I don't know what a gate and fence would cost besides a patrol if you want to do it twice a night. I mean, these are things that we need to look in and figure out. I mean, I'm willing to suggestions. I'm just saying is my job to try and control spending and do my budget. It's not working on my end.
I guess just looking at these numbers, so I'm looking back at that page, so you're talking it's the 10,000 plus the 7,000 roughly, so you got 11,000 there, plus a maximum of 3,400, so we're
Those are the
talking,
different times a year, that 10,329 plus the 7,747, plus the figures that Greg give you on what was spent in
Okay.
19 and 20.
so roughly 20,000 a year. Okay.
And I don't know that you would save by hiring somebody to stand there and the cost of the gate and the
I don't think so.
swipe I don't know where you're at with it.
Yeah.
So October through November, you're saying you haul 3 times a week?
Yes, 2 guys. And we can't hardly load the trucks with the amount of vehicles coming in with leaves. There's times they're sitting in their loader and there's 4 and 5 cars dumped in there. We come in on weekends, our weekend guy is constantly shoving them bins up because the amount of leaves that are coming in at that time of year, and they're still clear out in our driveway when we're trying to haul.
So you're saying you haul 2 or 3 times a week, and that's after you push it all the way back and then
Yeah.
compact it and...
We don't-
Because you can get a
we
lot
can't-
more in a truck
Yeah.
with it pushed up.
And that depends on whether they're wet or dry. And when they're dry, you can't get as much. And then they're blowing into the neighbors. You got businesses across the street that have complained constantly because all of our leaves, there's days I can't haul when the wind's really blowing because the Radiator Shop and Bi-State, their building fills up with leaves. And I understand their frustration with it too. But no, Johnny, in that leaf season, that period, we're hauling that much and we never empty the bin. We can't empty it.
So if we could spend some lesser portion of that cost and pay that to the landfill, are you indicating that and get some extended hours. I'm not sure what those hours are. That you'd be open to that as an option? I mean, it's.
There's a lot of
I mean,
ifs there.
I-
There's a lot of ifs
I
there,
understand
okay?
when it was, right over here, it's in the middle of town, it's handy, but it's a little over 2 minutes around the corner.
And to
from
dump
this
it,
current station, and it takes.
and the time and
All that
the
time-
labor
Labor.
that's being dumped and pick it up and me to drive it around the corner to redump it, that's the part that I just I have a hard time grasping. And I'm not saying that against any citizen. I understand that you guys want this available and you want to do something, but we need to figure out a better way.
So does it take 20 minutes to load your truck? It should.
It depends on what you just made a comment about how long you sit in line. In the morning hours, when the garbage lines, we're just as bad. I'll have two of them sitting in line and you got to rotate, but you can't weigh them in and out any faster than that. And then there's days that the garbage ain't running and my guys can be in and out of the gate and not sit in line or not wait. But I also have to haul them to the back of the landfill where the citizens come in and they have I'm pretty sure where all the dumpsters are. Can't you guys just back up and dump in a
No.
green dumpster on the concrete slab?
You got to go back.
Us. All the way back.
Go back.
Okay, I thought they had something for grass and leaves up front.
No, you
Okay.
have to go back.
I'm pretty sure they do.
If they do, it's only for minor stuff, but
Me as well.
anything that's.
I mean, if you got a pickup load, they probably send you back.
They
But if
send
you
you
come in
back.
with a handful of bags, there is a dumpster up front that you can put them in.
Well, every time we took them out this year, we had to take them clear to the back. So we're adding to the line, everybody else is waiting there. And I'm sure the landfill would say that to us, the traffic from the West Burlington people hauling them out hasn't contributed to their efficiency of operation. And Greg, while the time it takes to drive from West Burlington to landfill is minimal, it's waiting to get across that scale, driving through the challenging terrain of the landfill, and then waiting to get backed up and unloaded out of there. And as a few citizens have mentioned to me, their concerns are, even as they take their vehicles there, of picking up those nails, et cetera, and possibly a flat tire. And having been there, those are concerns that we had also luckily never had an issue with it. But it's not fun to have to haul out there, and we all know the limited hours. And so you guessed it, on Saturday morning, how long do you want to wait in line to get through out there and wait and get your work done Saturday by noon? Others, you're going to sit on that till Monday morning and hope it doesn't blow out of the back of your truck in the meantime.
So, I mean, as you know, I'm on the board, and you're supposed to be able to drop off leaves and grass at the front, not have to go through the back.
You should not.
I've been taking them out there for a year, and I've never been sent to the back yet.
Right.
So
Where do you
don't
dump
have-
them?
Bags and dump them right in the very first dumpster.
You should never get your vehicle off concrete.
Where do you, if you do brush, where do you do?
What's that, Joe?
If you do brush, what do you do?
Brush
Hans?
is different.
Brush, they send you to the back.
Brush is
Yeah.
to the back.
But if you got leaves and grass and bags, you dump them right there in the very first dumpster.
But if you got leaves in a car or truck, then they take you out back.
Well, then, they'll
Yeah.
take you out back.
It'll take you out.
I
back.
have
You
back,
guys are covered.
I have
Right,
backed up
that's
to
what I'm
that.
saying. Yeah.
I have backed up to that wall, Johnny, with a load of carpet in my truck, and you can put your tailgate back right up and throw it in there. So I'm pretty sure that you could probably rake leaves right out of your truck over that short concrete wall right into the dumpster too.
I've done that with some miscellaneous
Yeah.
junk too, but yeah, they've sent me all the way to the back, and
Yeah.
it's been 3 or 4 times. But
I've gone back there
Well, that's something
50
we can-
times, and it's always been to the back.
That's something
Every
we can
single
address at the
time.
board
Yeah,
level,
this is-
because grass and leaves are supposed to be dropped right off front on the concrete, and you'd be able to turn around and head back out. You're not supposed to have to drive through the landfill.
Yeah.
Brush, that's a different issue, but, I mean, that's something I'll bring up Tuesday.
Because I also have been told.
At
go
the
back.
board meeting, that's something I'll bring up at both the board meeting and the subsequent meeting.
Well, no,
No?
technically, no, we're in discussion with this. I can't, your comments were earlier, so I can't ask you to, okay. Other? I mean, we haven't come up with a solution, obviously.
Hey, Ron, this is
Yes.
Melanie.
Okay.
As we talk about potential solutions, I want to go back to what Greg said earlier, that option 2, which is the yard waste carts, and continually to make them available to the residents, or Levine's making them available. I think that's a good idea that Levine keeps doing that. that we, and for the residents in attendance, what that is a resident pays $2 a month to have Levine provide that, 95-yard cart. And then every time you want your cart dumped, you pay $4.75 to have Levine's come and pick that up. And you can have it dumped as many times as you want or as few times. I think that's something we should continue. And what I would like us to consider for option 2 is that the city would even, to incentivize residents to use that option and take some of the work off of the dumping at our site, is that we would reimburse citizens for the $2 monthly fee, and only the $2 monthly fee. And then the residents would pay for their $4.75 per pickup time fee. And that way we could encourage people and subsidize them for having the cart, but mitigate abuse by not paying for it every time they use it. Does that make sense?
If you're gonna do that, you're talking about $10,800, but, so you would definitely not wanna continue the operation or option number 4.
How many people are doing it today, Greg? I think
I'm using 900 households, but if we were not to do the public works site, you'd cut your cost in half by supplementing the resident per monthly charge. It'd cost you about $10,800.
Mm-hmm.
So about half your cost, and no
illegal
city staff labor, especially April to September, well, all year long, that could be focused on other projects.
I did that last year, and they will pick up on Wednesdays after your trash day, and they only pick up once a week. When the leaves are falling, you got more leaves in 2 days' time than once a week. Now, I did call them because they only go till the the week before Thanksgiving, and I don't know about you people, but I was still raking leaves the first part of December. And I
Have to get
they had
started
come
sooner.
and dumped my trash on Tuesday, and I called out there and I said, I've got an empty cart for my trash. Can I use that in supplement with the other container that I had? And she goes, well, yeah, but you'll be charged. And I said, I don't care. I mean, I've got this much leaves left over. And they did. They emptied both carts and charged me for both. But at the time, I didn't have anything else to do because, our thing was closed off. And it's convenient sometimes, but, it's just once a week unless if they're willing to go more often than once a week, especially in the heavy leaf season. It's not practical.
They might.
Either that or get your leaf blower and put it in the neighbor's yard.
She said they have about 35
Remember you said
residents
that,
right
because
now
I'm going
that
to bring
do
that up about the ice tonight.
I don't disagree with that option, but we're talking about our cost and not necessarily the citizens' cost. Because they're the one paying this 20 grand right now, and so if we supplement that, and we're paying for part of your cost, but now you got $5 almost every pickup. So overall cost of the citizen goes up. The overall cost that the citizen would pay would go way up. Now, their cost that they're paying through taxes would go down in half, but now they're paying $5 for every pickup too. So the cost of the citizen actually paying for it is not a good deal. It's just better on our budget.
Well, and it assumes the citizen has a vehicle to haul it. They've made that investment up front.
My understanding is you were talking about the $2 rental fee.
Right. And I'm saying that's great for our line item. Our line item gets cut in half from 20 to 10, but then the citizens still got to pay $5 every time they get them
Oh,
picked them
right,
up. So
right.
their cost is going way up.
Because there's only 35 takers right now. So if more people took advantage of it.
Yeah, just the individual person. If I switch from one to the other, my cost is going up.
Right. But, so save everybody money and just drive 2.5 minutes and drop it off.
You could.
But it's not 2.5 minutes, and I kind of feel
From
that,
site to site, that 2.5.
yeah, but the overall trip ain't 2.5 minutes, okay? And it's inconvenient. It's
Yes.
inconvenient because it doesn't fit the time of most working people. That, and I guess I'm gonna just say the way I feel about it. I look at this as a service. I look at this as a city service. We're asking the city to, or the people of the city, to keep their yards 6 inches, and we're asking them to rake up their leaves, and we're asking them to do all this stuff to beautify the city. And there's a lot of working people that can't do that within the 9 to 4 or 8 to 4, and the landfill closes at 4, so you have to get out there really at 3:30 in order to dump it, maybe even 3 o'clock. The drop area that we did have, I have been out there, I've personally been out there at 9, 10 o'clock at night, because I mowed the grass, I raked it up, I put it in the truck, I drove it out there, and by the time I got done, I was at home at 10 o'clock. Not everybody has those hours. So I look at this as maybe a little bit more expensive than the other way, a little bit more harder on the city crew, but as a completion of what we're asking everybody to do. I mean, we're asking them to do this stuff. Now we need a place to drop it. So I like leaving it the way it was. That's my opinion.
Kathy, do you?
I would like to ask a question of the citizens, if that's all right.
Certainly.
Does any option that was presented to us change your opinions? Does anything sound? I'd like to hear it.
Yes, when I pick up my leaves, my ash tree drops first. Then I got a hard maple. It drops late November. And then I also clean up my mother-in-law's property. I have to deal with all the schools because she lives on Ramsey Street. Those leaves drop late. And if you notice, the wind blows from west to east. I can clean that property and then later on that day come back, and if it's blowing, I gotta clean it again. I still work. I'm only off because medical. Mondays and Tuesdays, I work late. And there's no way I can make it to the landfill in a timely manner. The Levine's pickup, I mean, it's great. But with all the leaves I gotta deal with, there's no way I can do it. 1 container, 2 containers wouldn't do it, because I'm talking sometimes 6 truckloads in my pickup, and I got a 6 foot by 6. I mean, it's a 6.5 foot long bed, full size, and I fill that thing up. And I mean, also when I got a lilac bush I got to trim yet, and I'm waiting for the temperature to drop to where I don't stress it out. So I try to keep my property neat, and I would like to see the land or the cities drop off reopened if all possible.
Just in listening to your discussion and the position of where it's at, think about this thought process. If you were to put a gate up and have it open during normal hours, working hours, including Saturday morning if possible, then either 1 or 2 nights a week would be the only extra cost of labor. And I understand that labor is the single largest debt on you. Have somebody out there either 1 or 2 nights to have it open later. I will be the first to admit that I would be the one that wouldn't get it out there that night and need it the next night. But in Mount Pleasant, where we had ours, you were talking about cleaning your town up. That was the reason we had it. That was the actual reason we put it together. It was down in the old dump. I don't know if any of you know where it is, but you got to go out behind Saunders Park, which is way out there in the middle of nowhere, basically. Okay, if that gate was locked, and I drive by there, there were bags of leaves everywhere. or thrown over the fence. And that's gonna take that man to clean up in your position.
Valid.
You've got to make it user-friendly. If you don't, you're going to get it anyway, and then he's going to have to clean it up. I was out there, we've only been here 3 years, this is starting our 4th year. When I would go out there, a lot of times it'd be in the evening when I got done mowing, there were other people right behind me, people ahead of me, you waited in line to get in there. That's not costing you anything. That's my time. So if you have it open during the day, while people are there, have the gate open, people can get rid of it then, have a couple nights a week in order to do that. I think that would save a lot of problems. And yeah, it may only be 2 minutes to get out there, but I'll be the first person to admit I like convenience. And I like keeping my dollars in my pocket. And if I'm gonna pay $2 and then I'm gonna pay $4 and whatever for every one of those bins, the house I used to live in Mount Pleasant, we had anywhere from 15 to 20 truckloads full of leaves every fall. And as he mentioned, ash leaves first, other trees, and the oaks are always the last. And they could be in February before they leave. So I mean, you've got to look at what is your objective? Is your objective to keep the town clean? And how are you going to do that for the most convenience for the individual people that are doing it? And that would be, to me, leave it the way it is. You want to put a gate across there so people don't go in on off hours. Have it open a couple of nights. It would be manageable with minimal amount of hours. And we used to hire a guy that was retired, and he'd sit out there for a minimum wage and watch the trucks go by. And I'll also be the first to say, when I was doing my trees, somebody from his office came out and said, "Who are you and where are you from?" Because number one, I had a Henry County license plate on my truck. And I said, "Well, I'm Joe Beams, just moved here. I live at 701 Park Place." He didn't make me show electrical bill, but he believed me. And I think that's something else. You got to be a little bit on the side of believing the individual that's talking to you. But I think that might be a good result for him and a good result for the town. Because we can still go out and get rid of it if we did it during the day.
We've all been here enough years that we recognize most vehicles and stuff, but like you said, when you come in with Henry County plates, a red flag goes up.
He was almost running across there.
We try on our part because that's saving you tax dollars because I'm picking up everyone's stuff. Like I said, constantly people don't empty their bags. We got to pull the bags out. If we take it out, the landfill will make my driver get out, root through the pile, pick up the tires, the plastic bags, and that's just more time for me. And it's not the West Burlington citizens that is doing this. I fully believe that.
I understand, but you can also go back to the theory before we had landfills and everything, that every farmer's ditch was full of wash machines and everything else. So if your objective is to keep the town clean, you got to bend that a little bit to say, okay, we're going to do this for you guys. Please don't dump all this other junk in there. That's not what it's for. And you have to try to enforce it if it's possible. I know that's a headache. It's almost a rule that you can't police very well, but it's a headache.
Mr. Mayor, council members,
Let Hans.
I just want to put in my 2 cents worth real quick. I'm here tonight because while I'm exercising the day in the mornings at the mall, I have a couple of West Burlington residents that one is wanting to keep the dump site open, another one wants to close it. So you got a 50-50. And I haven't had 200 calls at my house, probably other than Andy, who's had 200 calls. And in 28 years, I don't think I've had 200 calls in 28 years on anything. But the option that I don't see is, are we still going to pick up bags on Mondays?
That's the other thing. Through this bad leaf time when everybody's bringing them, we do pick them up every Monday. I mean, if you got your dumpster and it's the leaf season, if you set the biodegradable bags out, we come by with a dump truck and we furnish that through, I'd have to get the date. Kelly, you know the dates on that?
I think it's the same time that we do open burning of leaves.
Yeah.
April 15th. I'd have to look. There's 2 different time periods.
Yeah.
I would suggest, and I've been thinking about this a lot, give that option more days during the week. Do it on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Pick those bags up. Now, there's a little cost to those bags, but last year, I inherited my dad's sycamore tree. And between Andrea and I, we hauled 30-some bags out to the landfill, and Mike and his crew picked up another 20-some bags on Monday mornings from that property.
I understand where you're coming from, but then again, I still got the cost of
I understand.
hauling from the shop.
I'm trying to give you
I know,
an option.
but then it's like we're adding more time for my guys if we pick up more than one set
I had
per
asked
week.
about that same thing last year and was told that that was the worst option of the bunch, even though that
I don't
was
think-
great
I
for
don't think
us.
it is, 'cause more
No, from their
people-
perspective.
Yeah, for his, but I think there's more people that were using it last year with it being filled. I've seen a lot more of that. Then the other option that isn't on the table here either, do away with the trees. Forget about the brush, just open it up. If you're gonna open it, just open it to grass and leaves. And don't let anybody dump brush. If you're gonna cut trees down your yard, then you need to hire somebody to pick it up for you, or you need to go out to the landfill and pay the $10 that it costs you.
And I agree, because that's the illegal cost on our part, because we don't get charged for grass and leaves. It's all the brush that comes in, especially after a storm.
And right now, West Burlington residents aren't having to pay for the brush, because that's what we decided to do 2 years ago. That the city would pick up the brush costs. And you can maintain that. It's not that great of a cost.
And that cuts a lot of costs out of my department. If you're cutting a tree down, like you said, you hauled out yourself. West Burlington still picks up the bill for the cost of the brush, but it's not you dumping it on my site, and me picking it up a second time to go around the corner.
Well, it's, like you said earlier, Mike, there shouldn't be a single tree in this
There should
town
not.
in the last 25 years.
No, there should not even be a
Not a single tree, as much as you guys have called out of it.
I got 3 that keeps growing back, and they grow back, and they grow back, and they grow back. And I'm gonna have to trim it again as soon as this year. So, and it's twice as tall as the building. Okay, there's one. But with all due respect, Hans, why do you suggest that we don't do brush? Is it the cost savings, or is it because it's not a city service, or is it?
I know it's being hauled out from the other town.
So why do we, as a council, why do we punish the citizens of West Burlington? And, no, hold out. Why do we punish them and not protect them by finding the people that's doing this bad that I keep hearing is so bad?
You're punishing me by having the additional cost that it costs us as taxpayers to provide that service.
But we should stop the illegal hauling and fix that problem. We don't stop something by.
That's not my man hours. Then you're talking, that's Jesse's man hours
That's
and what they
fine. I
expend.
don't care whose problem it is. We need to fix that problem.
You're not
That's the
saving.
problem we need to fix. If that's the problem, then fix the problem. Don't delete something that's good to everybody because it's a problem. No, Mike, tell me why we shouldn't do that.
I've seen Randy Fry go to court, and just like a comment in this room, he was judged, and the grass service got away with dumping a dump truck load as Randy watched them and told him they couldn't do it, and it got thrown out of court. So I know where this going to court's going to be. It will be
Why
plea
was
bargained
that?
out.
I mean,
You can go talk to our county attorneys and ask that question. I can't answer that for you. But I'll tell you right now, if we start taking everybody to court, we're not going to win.
do you agree with that, Greg?
You're going to be paying a lot of,
My nephew's assistant county attorney. But we can certainly talk to him.
then you're going to be in the legal fees.
But there's other
Attorneys.
routes you can take, other types of fees and fines that you can utilize.
I mean, I don't have a problem fining somebody $300 if they're dumping something that's wrong, and that's gonna cost the citizens a service because of them illegal dumping. Fix that problem.
You can create a municipal infraction, charge them up to $750, anywhere in between. you can say that you can pay it here and avoid your court costs. I mean, there's different fines and fees that you can utilize.
So why don't we try that for a year
But
and see if we fix
most
that
of the
problem?
brush is not from local residents. I don't know
Fix
the
that
answer to
problem.
that.
But
Stop it.
Drive around the
It's,
corner.
it's harder to stop it than you think, because it
the problem is all that work, and I'm not a fan of getting rid of it, but all of that work goes into stopping one guy from dumping illegally. Then you have to deal with the next guy that dumps illegally. They just keep
It
coming.
really did take Latron 48 hours to find that guy. He did nothing else, but we found that guy just to find out he was dumping from his parents.
And he was okay.
buying the truck on, so the reason why it was so bad was because he was buying the truck from a guy in Keokuk on contract, so the plates came back to the guy in Keokuk, and then they had to contact that guy. And yeah, it was a mess, wasn't it, Jesse? Just trying to find that one guy who dumped, just to find out that he did it for a West Burlington resident, his parents.
I can see that being a problem.
Any decision we make, we're spending taxpayer money to do it. What we have to decide is what's the best way and makes the most people want their money spent in that manner. Is that going after one guy? I don't know that that's the answer.
No, you go after everybody. You go after everybody that you think is,
Whole lot more money.
How many
than-
tax dollars?
I understand
How
that.
much tax dollars do you think you're gonna spend then?
well, you're telling me that, I just heard it out of your mouth. You said it was lawn service people. How many lawn service people is there that you're going to go after and cost them $400 or $500 before they stop? There ain't that many.
You know how many lawn services we've told, and they've came back again?
It didn't
again?
cost them anything,
Even
did it?
even if you fine them, they're still gonna do it again because they don't wanna drive to the landfill either, Johnny.
you're kind of recreating the wheel that's already been set up down the road at the landfill. The only problem is the hours. Otherwise, you're putting up a gate with a passcode and you're gonna track who's coming in. You're trying to do the same thing just down the street. Doesn't make a lot of sense to recreate the wheel just down the street if you can get the landfill to open up and have extended hours a couple days a week.
People I've talked to, they don't like going out to the landfill because you sit in line maybe sometimes 5 minutes or so and you're wasting gas, and the people don't want to buy the gas right now. And it's costing them more money to go clear out there. That's our own citizens I've talked to. They don't like to sit in line out there and wait. I mean, I understand, I've done it myself. But I'd like to see the city keep ours open.
Well, it seems like the majority of us are in favor of option 4. And obviously, it's not going to be open for probably another 3 weeks, thereabouts, so could we,
It may not be open
hopefully-
until next year.
Well, in the interim, can we get prices on the gate? Prices on a new security camera while we're waiting? So that and then Jesse can look up to see how much we can charge them to fine. Can we get all those bridges built and crossed before we pull the trigger so we know?
And talk to the landfill
And talk to the landfill.
again.
Well, you got that
Yep.
on Tuesday.
We can look into their software that'll automatically log every license plate that comes in and out of there too as well from those cameras, and I can look into that.
They make a little speed camera box these days. It's about day big, day high, that folks are putting in towns that tracks that, and that's. there's probably
Yeah, and
similar
it-
stuff too, cheaper ones.
But it's just like this, our mitigation should not cost more than what we are paying to dump.
Well,
Yeah.
those are
Because
the
then it gets
costs that we need
pointless.
to
Right,
make.
then let's
make
just
this
haul theirs
decision.
away too. and
Yeah, then the
save our
taxpayers are
taxpayer
paying
money.
more for our mitigations than they were before because Burlington's dumping there.
But I don't want to turn, and I hope this isn't what's going to happen. I hope I don't want to turn not dumping in there this fall because we can use the water tower as an excuse that they're not done.
We'll know when they're done, John.
You know, that seems to me that we can make that open.
Well, no,
out
because
there.
we're done writing checks that it's done.
Didn't you say it was in the contract?
Every project we do, street or otherwise, it's under the contractor's control until the contract is completed and the contract is accepted and turned back to the city.
Which has to
They
come
have
here.
liability, they have insurance, et cetera, and it's under their control. Mount Pleasant Street, when they come back to do Pleasant Street, it's essentially their street until the project is complete. Same thing with the tower.
So in order to open that, we would have to ask them if they're done with that portion. And then they may
You'll
say
accept the
yes.
project.
It's not substantially done and accepted, and there's not water in the tower. The tower hasn't back T-test yet passed. There's so much stuff that isn't done. I mean, I can tell you right now, we're talking weeks and weeks yet before this is completed.
So then
But-
in
but-
the interim,
As soon as, you'll know when, I mean.
You'll want-
Oh, right away.
Date on the project.
No. My point is, but we can ask them to release that portion of it because they're not storing anything in there. They're not storing their tubes and everything else in there.
They're worried about dropping a wrench off the top of the tower and hitting somebody in the head.
And they're not in the tower anymore.
They're going up
They're
to,
planting grass out there.
they're going up to sanitize, and they'll be on the tower doing the sanitation stuff. There you'll see people up on the tower again.
For another couple of weeks.
I guess the
When-
part of that
whenever
I'm
they
not
start.
happy about is when we first brought that up, it was a temporary closure. We're going to be closed this year.
And we're clear past our completion date
Right.
because of the contractor.
How many times did we bring this up that, as a council, we said, well, we need at least a temporary solution in place? We looked at places we could do it, and we pushed it off a year, and now we waited till the last minute again, and we don't have a solution for this year. So if we knew it was going late, we need to have something in place for this year.
Yeah, we do.
well, I was going to suggest, Andy, while we're waiting, as Hans suggested, that, on Mondays, there was a lot of people that did not realize that if they had their leaves in those brown bags, that they would be picked up on Monday. A lot of people weren't aware of that.
On purpose. We-
Well, I'm not sure, I'm not going.
I asked the question if we needed to be talking about this on
So if we
Facebook and getting it
increase
out,
that
and I was
3
told that we
times a
couldn't
week.
handle that.
I'm not done. I'm not done. If we increase that to 3 times a week until we know what's going to happen out there, at least we give these citizens the opportunity to bag their leaves, and they're not gonna have to haul it. Our guys will pick them up with the end loader in the pickup truck and take them out. That's the only viable solution I can see for the time being until we get that mess cleared.
I think you have an issue we talked about before, and that's work comp injuries with lifting and twisting.
They
and
have an
pulling.
end loader.
Well, I'm just saying, that's one of the things that our insurance company, and that's why
That was their
Levine's
their
doesn't lift
point.
up garbage.
Even though we have an
bags.
end loader, you still have to pick up all those bags and be heaving bags all day, too. That's-
Perhaps you don't remember that, but we had
I
that
do
discussion
remember
last year.
I do.
We talked about all of those things, and the end of it was, we didn't have the manpower to make that happen, even on one day a week. Because we never publicly said it, we never went out and told anybody on Facebook. There was a few of us that knew, and a few old people that have been doing it forever, and that's all we handled.
We have put it in the newsletters.
Not the weekly leaf pickup, that they will come by and pick it up.
Isn't there?
We have had it in there before. I'm not sure the very last one, but.
We talked about all this last year, and what are we gonna
did kind of
do?
get away from it because of the issue of work comp injuries, but
Right.
we have had that. We used to sell the bags at
So-
City Hall.
Right, and I'm talking last year when we went, what are we gonna do? That was said that was not an option.
Can we do the receptacles at their home for this year? And
They
make
would
that an
have to
op,
She said they would have to order more receptacles.
and they're not willing to do it if we're not willing to?
I think they're willing to do it. I mean, they would do it with anybody that called.
That's a
But-
large, that's a large capital.
I don't think
cost.
I don't think all 900 homes
It's
do
a big
it.
cost, and
That's-
like,
yeah, that's-
you can't, some people's yards, one, Hans, no, I mean, one ain't gonna do a house. Some people are gonna need 9, 10 of those to.
Mike, let me ask you this. What if we went to option 3 for the rest of the year? Do you think
It's still on the same side.
Well, I understand that, but I'm wondering if, because it's in containers and there's just a truck coming in and out back, and you think that they would release that property?
I don't know if they'll release that unless we put those containers somewhere else in town.
That's what I was.
But then, like it's stated in here, the issue with the dump off now too is the people that pull up, throw out their leaves at the opening.
Back up. Or
And if you have roll-offs with a door open and somebody backs up with a pickup load of grass, dumps it in the opening, the rest of the dumpster's empty.
Empty.
And a lot of these elderly people, they can't pick those bags up and throw them over the dumpster. So I honestly don't know that no matter how much you explain it and pass it on, that the dumpster is gonna be the answer either.
Well, that's.
They're all gonna get filled up,
opinion on that.
they're gonna get filled up to the door, and the rest of the dumpster's empty, and nobody can throw stuff up over the top.
I was just looking at a solution for this year. Right. That doesn't sound like a good solution.
I don't know, Greg, if there's some way we can contact Boomerang and get them to release that. I don't know if that's an option or not.
Yeah, I mean, we can have another conversation. I've got Boomerang down, I've got landfill down, cameras, penalty, lights, gate system. The other option that we talked about last year was community park, but you still have the same issues with the containers. Or we just utilize the pool.
I'm personally not in favor of this lockdown scenario where we've got to buzz in and buzz out, and we've got security cameras, and we're finding people and going after them. And I know there's going to be some of this coming from other towns, and there's going to be some illegal dumping, and we've seen issues with everything we try to do, whether it be a park restroom or whatever. People are going to mess with us on everything we do.
Lighting and camera seems.
And we know there's a cost associated with it, just like we lose money at the pool, we're gonna lose money doing this, but it's their money for a service they're paying for, so they can go out there and use it. And that's what we're here to do. So I have no problem with that, but it seems silly to spend all that money on all those gates and everything. If I was gonna spend a dime, I'd rather spend it protecting the blowing leaves from going over into those businesses over there and find a solution for that. I think that is a problem for those people across the street there to the east. So if I was going to do something, that's the problem and the solution I think we should be looking at.
I would stick with lights, cameras, and penalty, and then perhaps that as well. I agree, I wouldn't look at the gate personally, but.
I personally don't want a gate, but I'm all in for the penalties and the cameras and go for it.
But there has to be a limit of how much they can go after. If they don't find them after, we can't spend 4 days of our officers' time when they should be out on the streets doing that. That's.
Well, I think once you get the offenders, you're gonna get less offenders, and then you're gonna get less offenders.
So if we maybe had the license plate camera that logged plates is coming in, could we have them log their trucks up at City Hall before they go dump? They log their plate number, and that way if we go through the list and we see, okay, this plate's not supposed to be here, then we know it's them.
Not gonna get the compliance. You're not gonna get the compliance of people wanting to do that.
And you're tracking down even more trucks.
It just, because otherwise it's Latron working 48 hours to find out that it's nobody. And that's, I mean, obviously the tires and stuff, that's an open and shut case.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't matter if it's a West Burlington resident or whoever, they're legally dumping, but.
$500.
But, yeah. I would recommend the cameras either way, because.
It's gonna be tires, trash, and businesses.
Yeah.
I don't want to ruin a situation, a good situation for illegal dumping. I don't want to do that. So what we have to do to fix that, you tell me. Whether it's huge fines or whether it's you coming up with license plate numbers on them and telling me that they're, and then giving them a call, or all of the above, that's fine with me. I don't want to put a gate up. That's just not me.
It would be more than one gate because you need one coming off
Exactly.
Mount Pleasant.
Exactly, Trace.
Well, and you're gonna have people tailgating in behind the person going into dump anyway, so it just is pointless. Not to mention, you had me look and it was astronomical, I think.
You gotta think of the city guys do going in and out of that gate. How many times a day do they go in and out? Right?
But it's more of an evening gate than anything. Yeah, I think that they were talking about.
Mike, what do you think we should do for this year?
My whole point is, I just want the council and the citizens to understand that I have multiple budgets to control. This is costing the citizens. If they're okay, what we're paying for the illegal and what it's costing them in taxes, and you're okay with my guys spending all the time hauling it, and that's your decision, that's what I'll go with. I'm not gonna sit here and argue it. But you gotta understand, like I've said, I've only got so many man hours and those many people. So if other things ain't getting done through these leaf periods and heavy, that's because that's where we're at.
So do you think roll-offs could work just for this fall?
Honestly, like I explained, I just think that would be chaos. I'll come in the morning and the parking lot will be full of bags of leaves, and I'll still be out there scooping them up, trying to dump them in the roll-offs.
Do you
But,
think we could handle the manpower to do leave pickups at their home 2 days a week?
no.
You think we can get them to,
Well, Greg's got
ease
that
the-
list. I mean, that's where I would start. We
Ease
would
the
have to
opening?
contact the contractor and the engineer and see if we can get a release of that now off to the side, and if you go back to what we are, we go back to what we are, but.
that seems to me like that should be the easiest thing.
But I totally agree with Hans in the brush. If you're gonna cut a tree down, haul it to the landfill yourself. That is the big expense of the illegal dumping. I mean, the grass expense is my time and labor of hauling it, but they don't charge us for that. The landfill charges the city and the taxpayers for all the brush. And as soon as we get that past due thunderstorm to come through with straight line winds we haven't got this year, just drive out by the shop. You'll see that we haul all day long, and it'll take days to clean the parking lot with the brush.
Hey, Hans, I want to clear up something. I didn't mean to cut you off. I respect your comments and everything, so, hey, I just didn't mean to do that. So, accept my apology.
I think at one time, Mike thought there was a minimum for taking brush of $10, but there is not a minimum for brush.
There is not a minimum.
It's 12 cents.
And if we still pay for the brush anyway, yeah, so,
The city's paying for us to bring the brush.
Yes, yes, but if a resident takes it out there, it's
12 cents
a
12
pound,
cents a
yeah,
ton.
a pound.
So I guess I want to ask 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just a raise of hand.
Brad?
Do you dump more leaves or brush? Leaves,
oh yeah, definitely.
brush,
No, brush.
So
grass and brush?
if we continued,
Doesn't leaves.
if we continued to pay at the landfill for them to drop it off, that would be a decent compromise.
Brush, just the brush?
Just the brush, yeah. Leaves and grass, fine. Brush still go out, and then we cut a lot of your price?
Cut some of your time.
You're not
right?
cutting my time. You're
Price.
cutting the cost.
I
of-
said price, not
Yeah, you're
time.
cutting the cost of the city and, of hauling the brush, but you're not cutting all the leaves and grass that I got. I mean, it's gonna considerably, depending on storm stuff, how much I'm hauling. If I don't have to haul all the brush, yes.
So some of your cost then.
And then that also saves us, we don't need that second license plate camera anymore because that does away with the brush pile.
You still need to have that whole area because you're gonna have people that are gonna still
gonna
bring
try.
brush and
But
dump.
we probably need to move that license plate camera just to hit that entry so it gets everybody that comes in and goes out.
So, Mike, you're probably not gonna like it, but, I mean, if Boomerang's not open to it, I mean, we could allow leaves and grass at the end of Community Park, and then just pick it up.
I'm not the only one that's not gonna like it.
If you're looking for a temporary solution.
But we have to give a
I wouldn't do it.
solution.
I would stick with the current plan and take it out to landfill, but, I mean, really, when we talked last, there wasn't any other locations.
Yeah.
That worked.
That would not be for brush, that would just be leaves
Leaves
and
and grass.
leaves and grass, okay.
So the city has 2 more spots out there at the shop that they got other stuff in. On to the west.
No, there's more than 2. We have rock, sand,
Yeah.
our rubble pile, wood chips, our patch. And those bins aren't even a quarter of the size of the bins we're using. They won't
Understand that.
hold nothing.
But we're talking 3 months, so, but is
So then when I
is
need.
that under their, no, is that under their jurisdiction?
No, I can get to that to get my supplies, but we're not supposed to have people in the lot driving around.
Okay, okay.
And I think the best, I mean, if, like I said, If you want me spending the time and the labor and hauling them, the best thing is we try and work with the contractor and open it back up, but without the brush. But like I say, just understand, in those dates we give you, that is how busy we are doing that, and guys will be tied up with that.
So tell me again why we're shorter now than we were a year ago when that was open.
We're not a year ago. I said 20 years ago.
Okay, forget 20 years ago, a year ago when we were doing that.
We're not
And we were hauling stuff out to the
Say we
landfill.
were any shorter a year
You
ago.
didn't have any part-timers other than one for, what, a couple weeks?
I had one for a couple weeks this year. I can't get, there's no part-time help, no truck drivers. I mean, through the summer months, when the grass and stuff was coming in, and we would hold people over in the fall to help the truck driver to haul the leaves, to keep my guys free to do sidewalks and jetting and the other list I got to do, we had help, but
But we are looking to bring back that apprenticeship program with the state, which would add a employee.
So a year ago, we could have done this without additional help.
No, a year ago, we had 2 part-timers.
not this year, but a year ago, we had 2.
2 part-timers that we don't have now.
We have no applications.
Not for the LEAF program, that's to have somebody in place for the wastewater treatment plant. And then they would follow that individual around. They would be available, and they'd get all 4 of their certifications, but then they would be available for public works duties as well.
Okay, so a year ago, they weren't doing the brush, they were doing the apprenticeship for the other stuff.
No,
What's the
no,
difference?
no, that hasn't even started yet, Johnny.
This is a brand-new program that we've talked about doing.
A year ago, how are we shorter now than we were a year ago when we were doing the brush?
2
And
part-time people.
he just said those 2 part-time people weren't doing the brush.
No, not the brush. No, they're doing the mowing and stuff, so my guys could do the brush and the leaves. Now, I got full-time people mowing parks and stuff because I can't get part-time help to apply.
Mike was out mowing last.
I
And
thought we had
and
a
I'm mowing.
part-time mower.
No, we don't. We don't have no one. No applications.
I thought we hired one.
It's been closed for more than a year. It was closed in
Yeah, we're past that.
2020.
Okay. I'm sorry, 2020, what were we doing then? I'm sorry. Yeah, I wasn't on the council, Hans, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I've got a pretty good idea of what we need to bring back. And the questions that we need to ask. Boomerang, the prices that we need to look into, the landfill questions. Then I can bring that back.
All right, well, I have a motion in front of me, and we've been at this for an hour and 15 minutes. Do you want to think about getting this information back for next Tuesday's meeting, a regular council meeting, and simply not tabling this, or?
I won't have an answer from the landfill, I doubt it. We're gonna have a discussion on Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
I think Hans, or Greg has a lot of answers to get before we can make a decision on this.
Okay.
So,
The first question is gonna be boomerang, and if we can at least get something temporary out there in the short term.
It looks like the council, I mean, I guess from the way people talk, want to go ahead and try option 4. But to make it
With
work
some
properly,
changes.
with some changes, yes.
Return to the program as usual with improvements, and maybe just leaves and grass. I'm not sure if there was a majority there or not, but, and I'll ask the landfill, talk to Boomerang,
See the costs on our camera, a
and the
new
costs,
camera.
et cetera, and bring that back budget time, or, no, we'd bring it back earlier, yeah.
well, I think we should do brush this year. Because brush this year, if we say no now to the brush, it's like 2 months from now or a month from now. I think that's something we can take up.
You haven't done brush for almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
I understand that, but we were doing it, and we're supposed to go back to the way we were, because this is only temporary, which was both. That's what they stopped it for, was both, and temporary, both. And if we're gonna reopen it, we should do both and then decide what we're,
Yes, but if we agree to pay for our citizens to dump their brush at the landfill, I feel like we're kind of hitting the middle. We're not paying for the excess, but we're still paying for our citizens' brush.
I hate to try to or let people know that we're gonna do it for now and then take it.
Start it for a month and shut it
Yeah,
down.
That would,
It'd
that
be
would
for
be
the rest
hard
of the year.
as far as notifying them that that's,
I feel like it would be a harder way to get them to stop once we say, okay, it's fine for a while.
Well, for the amount of brush that comes in versus the amount of leaves and grass, most people are going to be happy that they're at least getting leaves and grass picked up, I think. I mean, that would be my thought as a homeowner also. But, my times with brush are usually a few times in the spring and a few times in the fall, and I don't have a whole lot of brush in between, because once I clean it out, it's kind of gone for the season, essentially. So I wouldn't be opposed as a homeowner taking that part of it out. I can manage that, but when I've got leaves sitting around that are getting wet and starting to mold on me, I don't like that, so.
I think I'd like my motion to stand. But I want to keep the brush and the leaves.
All right.
me too. Trees?
Okay?
Yep.
All right, well then, where you don't have this plan in place necessarily, it would be a motion, Andy, to move forward with option 4 then, right?
Correct. And if we have to do something temporary for this year, understand, but that's why I asked in the beginning what the discussion was for, and it was for the long term.
Right. Well, in that case, I will call for a vote. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 All right. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So we're moving forward with option 4.
just make it clear that it's not open somehow right now.
Yes,
It's not
it's not
open,
open.
no. And it's just that we're moving forward with this plan. Okay, we have a second option, or second item on our, come on,
Snow emergencies?
yes. There we go.
I don't need a motion or anything. This is just a discussion item.
All right.
Ordinance would be brought back. And this is really just, there's some information on here. You've got the same information you've had before on the snow removal process, et cetera. There's the draft ordinance in here. It's just, are we going to declare snow emergencies or not? I mean, in a nutshell. The snow emergency is different for, every storm is different. You're not going to know. You're going to have to base it on the weather forecast. Streets or cars would be removed from the streets. Public Works would get through town as quickly as possible. Remove the emergency as quickly as possible. That's it in a nutshell. I mean,
It just stops us making 2 to 3 more rounds when the park cars move and people got their sidewalk shoveled, and I throw it back up on the sidewalks or in their driveway again. If all vehicles were off the street, but you got to understand that every storm changes, and it's hard to, there may be some times it's cold and we don't get the snow. If it's a fluffy snow, I'm not going to worry about it. If it's that slush we got 2 years ago that ended up 2 inches froze everywhere, we definitely want people off the streets. The parking lots are open for people to move extra vehicles to, we've said before.
but in a nutshell, that's really all I mean, are we going to actually utilize snow emergencies? We'd like to utilize snow emergencies, get vehicles off the car, get through quicker, but it's going to be dependent on the storm, and we get notice out as quickly as possible and rescind it as quickly as possible. I mean, that's really all there is to this. Now, there is a penalty, and cars could be ticketed and towed. Typically, I would encourage us to do a warning, at least for this first snow event, if not the second one, and then start ticketing and towing at that point. People get used to it pretty quickly. They know it's coming. We have new tools. We need to encourage people to sign up for those new tools, the text and email. so that we can send those notifications out, but that it would also be on social media and the other methods that we have for communication. So really, in a nutshell, it's just, are we going to proceed with adding the snow emergencies to the ordinance?
Well, that's not quite that.
This isn't addressing,
This doesn't deal with sidewalks.
Yes, it does. It states it right there in it.
That's just the snow, that's just the
It
snow removal.
states it in there.
No, that's the snow removal policy, John. That's their process. The only thing we're talking about adding at this point in time is snow emergencies. The sidewalk issue doesn't change. The requirement to remove snow from sidewalks doesn't change. That's not what this particular issue is about. This is just whether or not we do snow emergencies. That first piece that's on the agenda is simply their
Well,
practices.
if you're telling the truth, then, and I'm sure you are, but if you are, then the normal snow removal operation may result in snow being deposited on streets, drives, and sidewalk. City will not clear away private streets, drives, and sidewalk. Okay, so this is part of that.
No, this is our
This is-
internal snow control policy.
this isn't about it's
Not
about,
the ordinance that we're talking about tonight. That just kind of gives you a summary of our snow removal operations. The ordinance is the second item. And the only thing that we're talking about adding at this point in time is the snow emergency to the ordinance so that vehicles have to be removed from the streets so that we can get through town quicker, get the streets cleaned up quicker, and then release the snow emergency.
Then
Sidewalk.
then that sentence should be out of there, or that paragraph should be out of there.
No, that's
Because
just
it
internal policy, John.
specifically
It's not part of
states
the ordinance.
that it's not.
No, it's
It's
not
not
in
part
here.
of the ordinance, John.
Here's the ordinance. It's 3 sheets.
It's just the snow
And
removal.
that part is in
That's
this
just the
page is
policy that
here,
we
which
go by.
aren't, this is the ordinance, this is what we're talking about. This is the internal policy of the city.
I understand that.
Well, we're not talking about that. That's already in place. All we're talking about right now are these 4 pages, actually, front and back, 2 sheets.
That's right, and this is in that 4 pages.
Where?
Right here. The normals on page 2 of 3.
2 of 4. There are 4 pages to the ordinance.
Page-
You're in
page
this
2
one.
of
You're in
3.
this. That is not the ordinance. This is the ordinance here. There's 4 pages. So whatever you look at has to say 2 of 4.
So on the bottom right corner of your pocket, it says page 10. That's the page we start on.
The other is just it's just an informational piece on how snow operations are conducted.
This is part of our normal sequence
City council
that's already
wishes
been
to
adopted, so.
change the sidewalk policy.
Hold on.
One down,
That's a
Right here.
different discussion.
one down.
No, no,
They're
no.
still not in the
Further
ordinance.
sidewalk
But this is what we're talking
That's
about.
not what we're talking about. This is already in place. This is the snow removal policy. The ordinance that we're talking about starts on this page, right here, on page 10 of that document.
Sorry.
City council wishes to change the snow removal ordinance as it pertains to sidewalks. And your particular issue is removal on those sidewalks that are adjacent to streets.
That
that's
there's no green space between.
where there's no green space. That's a separate topic. All we're talking about, this was intended just to be on whether or not we want to institute a snow emergency.
Which is just cars removed from the street.
One quick question.
Yeah, it's just a,
One quick question.
But it designates that the public works director or a certain council.
It's been
council member
changed,
that's in charge.
the language has been
Excuse me.
changed to make it.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
A quick question. Is still the intention of this to do every street, or is this to
Yes.
develop snow routes?
snow routes were too small.
Okay.
This
So
is
it's to
every street.
Okay.
This is something that, I mean, I spend hours watching storms moving in, and I will have to call this early afternoon so people know when they're coming home from work to park off the street. And there is going to be times that we're going to ask you to park off the street, and the event's going to slide north or south, and it's not going to happen. But if they're off the street, it can be removed completely to curb versus me coming back the next day when vehicles move and this temperature drops, those are frozen, I'm breaking cylinders on plow, hitting it, and then you go park by your neighbor where he had his car moved because can see the curb, and then nobody parks where you're at because you didn't have your car moved. It's just going to eliminate that if everybody gets off every street, 2.5 to 3 hours, I can be done with the whole town.
And
And as soon as I'm complete, that notice will go out that the snow emergency is lifted.
And this is on the books. That's correct. It's how it's, the minor changes on how it's implemented. And then they haven't been utilized historically. So we had a discussion earlier at a previous council meeting about bringing this back so that and talking about the desire to utilize these going forward.
And I believe Teresa, you're the one that, you were the one concerned and brought this up about the piles of snow here and there, and we got to get this off. And, you're the one that said that we need to enforce this to clean the whole streets, all the streets, curb to curb, because then you don't have those piles that people are driving over and us hitting with plows. Because most of your snow comes at a warm enough temperature that we can get it off when it's happening, whether it's night, day, weekends, we're in here. But if it sits there and the temperature drops and the wind picks up, that material's all froze there, and you're SOL until it warms up or I get sunshine to time bust it loose.
Yeah, because we've not declared a snow emergency for, not that we've gotten much, but I understand this year we're going to get a fair amount.
They're saying it's not going to be a good winter.
But they said that last year, too.
And your intent would be, if it's estimated we're going to get over X amount of inches, you're going to go ahead and declare it. So in this case, we'd have maybe, obviously we don't know what the weather's going to do, but a dozen or so snow emergencies. So if we're getting over 3 inches.
Yep. It could be if it's 2 inches of wet snow and slush.
Okay.
Or even 1.5 inches of that slush and the temperature drop an hour later, I'll be calling it, because otherwise I can't remove that once it's froze to the street.
You get ice right off the bat, and then you get a snow right afterwards. It makes it slip. I mean, every event is different. It has to be considered individually.
And the parking lots you mentioned, you're talking the parking lots?
Yeah, like the pool, Pat Klein. I mean, those are available. If you've got extra cars, you don't have room in your driveway, and I know that's inconvenient that you're gonna have to pull them all in your driveway for whoever's leaving first in the morning, but you gotta think too, when y'all come home, it's gonna be clean to the curb and you all got a place to park again. And you're not gonna be parking on frozen material that's piled up on the street.
Since this is just a discussion, could I have a show of who is in favor of adopting this as a resolution? An ordinance, excuse me.
I'm totally,
It's the ordinance already there.
Already in
Okay.
place, a couple minor revisions.
because of that one clause in there, I don't understand why that's in there and we're not talking about the snow removal, the sidewalks.
That's just, that's how our snow operations work. It's a policy on that. In the ordinance, there is a section on sidewalks and removal. 48 hours?
Yeah.
48 hours. It's that section that you're talking about where you'd like to address if there's no green space between the back of curb and the sidewalk, you'd like to make a change to the ordinance. That's a separate.
Well, if that's a separate one, why isn't that on here tonight?
Because the intention here tonight was just to bring back the snow emergency ordinance. That was the discussion that was earlier, and that was what we were bringing back tonight.
But a lot of this depends on what you're going to do on that.
It has nothing to do with.
It has everything to do with it.
We're gonna be pushing snow off whether it's emergency or not. Just some places won't get clean.
The only difference is whether or not we allow parking on the streets for that snow emergency. That's the only difference we're talking about right now. So that we can get this advertised and out there in advance.
We can bring the other ordinance up, John, for
Yeah,
discussion.
we can bring that other piece up. This was just to be about snow emergencies and
The
whether or
other
not we're
ordinance
gonna
regarding
start
shoveling.
instituting them and bringing them forward. Doesn't affect the sidewalks in any way, shape, or form.
I don't know if I want to have a snow emergency where we pull everything off so we can shovel more snow onto a sidewalk that's inches off of the road.
It's less snow, it's less trips for me.
Well, I understand that. It makes life easy for you.
No, I mean,
It
I'm
makes-
not
it
gonna
makes
be
it pure
coming by
hell
those.
For the citizens that don't have no.
I'm not gonna be coming by that same sidewalk multiple times. I can get the street part done.
You're taking 15 feet of snow.
This
From the
isn't,
center
this
of
isn't
the
for,
road over to
this
the
isn't for
sidewalk.
discussion tonight. This isn't what's on the board.
Yeah, right. We can do this 2 different times and pass one and then we can't do nothing about it next time.
Why can't you do nothing the next time? a whole different ordinance.
Well, we should take that clause out of there.
It's not in the ordinance. I think it's the way you're looking at it on the screen, but there's a snow and ice removal policy that's already been adopted. It's not up for, it's not even for consideration or approval. This is what it is already. And then there's the ordinance, and that section about sidewalk is not in this ordinance.
Mm-hmm. Except it says here that we will not clean it, and we will shovel it onto there.
That's okay.
Does it not say that?
Nope, it does not say that.
It's not the ordinance we're discussing tonight.
City will not clear away private
We're
streets,
still looking at the
sidewalks.
snow and ice control policy.
This policy here, which is, we're not discussing.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
there for info.
That's just an informational piece that had been provided historically to talk about, to show you how the operations, snow operations work. That's
So
all
I
that
understand
is.
that.
That's all that is.
I understand it. We need to fix one before we fix the other.
This one currently, John, is just to declare a snow emergency.
I understand that.
For reasons. And then we can bring up the other ordinance that deals with shoveling sidewalks and the time frame for that. That's the one that you want to discuss. Trust me.
I understand that, Teresa, but it's still in here. It's still in this one.
But the other one is more exact about.
Exact,
That's in the
yeah.
policy. That's
Yeah.
in the policy. The policy's not the same as the ordinance, John. The other ordinance that you want to address tells the time frame of when you should have your
Have
sidewalks
it
up.
removed and stuff. I agree.
And you want to discuss whether or not there should be a section that's added to the ordinance that deals with sidewalks adjacent to streets without any green space.
Exactly.
Right. And what the solution is, I don't know. You've mentioned blading it off, for example. What the solution is, it can be, whatever that is, that council wishes to pursue or not, can either be added or not to that section of the ordinance. But this is just about whether council wants to, I don't even know how this got started, I guess. I don't know what we call, but about whether or not we want to start utilizing snow emergencies so that they can get off the road.
Whether we want to clear all streets at one
Get
time.
them done quicker.
Yeah.
And get cars off the road so that we can get done in a quicker fashion.
Melanie started to say something.
Okay. Melanie?
Yes, regarding declaring a snow emergency, this is that discussion I believe we started last February, March, and then said, hey, let's think about it for 6 months and come back at it, and here we are back at it. I'm a proponent of doing what, Mike is one who's brought this forward and said, hey, let me be more efficient at my job. This is a way I can do it. Let me declare snow emergencies. Let me get the vehicles off the streets. Let me get them clean so the citizens have clean streets to drive them, and then they can use the streets as they've been using them prior to the snow. So I'm a proponent of this, putting in place that a public works department can declare a snow emergency. And that specifically is what I'm addressing during this conversation tonight.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Melanie.
You're welcome.
I guess then the next question for me would be, so you declare it, or you see the weather forecast and we're gonna get 2 inches tomorrow. Okay? Would you declare emergency?
Like has been explained, it's going to depend on wind speed, temperature drop, whether it's going to be a dry, fluffy snow, or it's going to be a slushy, wet snow. Every storm is unpredictable. You know as well as I do, till you get out of bed in the morning, you don't know what the heck's on the ground.
I understand that.
And we may be wrong.
We may be mistakes, we may call it sometimes, and it turns out that it goes north or south and we get nothing out of
And
it.
then you just cancel the snow emergency.
Yeah, then I call it off as soon as I know that it's moved track and it ain't gonna be here. I mean, that notice may go out at 2 in the morning when I'm in here and it's moved somewhere else and we're not gonna have it. Yes, people's had to move their cars, but, I can't control Mother Nature on every storm.
understand that, Mike.
And I'm not gonna call it unless my information that I'm getting through my weather and DOT weather, is how it's tracking. I've had guys come in many times, Randy's had me in here many times, at 2 a.m, get supposed to hit, be here 2-3 hours and nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
It don't happen until 6 or 7 in the morning because, and like I said, it's whether it's rain, snow, Mother Nature does what Mother Nature's gonna do. But this just gives me the opportunity that when I make a round through town and then people clean their driveways off and then the cars move, I gotta come back and do it again and everybody's upset because I throw it right back in their driveway. If we moved all the vehicles the first time, I can clear it curb to curb and I'm not gonna be coming back throwing any more up on your driveway.
And I understand that, and I can see your philosophy to that. And there's a 50-50 chance that the weather's gonna be right. I mean, you throw it all out there every day, it's gonna be 50% right today and 50% right tomorrow. My problem with that is you have people driving to Keokuk that has to leave here at 3 o'clock in the morning. And they have a second car and you declare it at 7 o'clock. Now their car is sitting on the street that's illegal. Because
I just explained that earlier. I will make those declares and stuff early afternoon as soon as I can predict it. That way, everybody in the evening or before they go to their night shift, or their wife can let them know at work that it's been called. So when they come home at 3 in the morning, it's on the radio. We have this text option for people to sign up. You'll get a text on your phone saying at this time we're calling a snow emergency. We're going to do everything possible to notify people. And the first couple storms, like he said, there'll be leeway. We'll remind them. I'm not just going to, the first snow we get this winter, tell everybody's vehicle to impound and have you go pick up your car.
kind of like the grass thing. We're not going to fine you, but we're going to talk to you.
Everybody
it's
needs
6
that
inches.
first option.
It's typically, the process in most cities is ticket and tow.
And not only will I call snow emergencies and it'll move and it won't happen, there's gonna be times that I don't call one and it's gonna shift and drop in here and you're gonna wake up in the morning and I'm gonna have a mess to take care of then.
Exactly.
Like it is now, but, we all know that it's only so much we can predict and try and outguess it. But I just think the citizens would appreciate when I go through and I'm done, I'm done. I'm not coming back the next day when everybody goes to work and taking the neighbors where they didn't get off the street, plowing it down the street and putting it in your neighbor's driveway or your neighbor's sidewalk. If I come through and do it all the same, all the way down the street, it's done and over with.
Kathy, you have some comment?
So my thoughts are, as a shift worker, I often work night shifts. As cut and dry as it is for one family, it's not for the next, moving those cars. I'm a proponent of starting this and changing the way we do, but I think we might have to look at it again. If we're coming up with individuals saying this isn't working and here's why, we might have to revisit if it doesn't work for them.
Okay. Thank you. Andy?
It was a tough one. I really didn't have my mind made up. Because the problem is certainly there, and I've seen it, and if anything, I like to be efficient, so seeing that from Mike's point of view, I think makes a lot of sense. I drove around today through alleys just to see how many people, I didn't go down every street, but probably half of them, didn't have a driveway at all and no garage, so their backyard was grass all the way to the alley and nothing in the front. And it was not a ton, but there was, I think I counted 7. So again, we have an option for them to move them to the parks. I don't know how gray of an option that is, so I'm kind of torn on that. Like, it is an option, but okay, it wouldn't be a great one if I was in that situation.
Everybody knows that, and everybody's watching, oh man, we're gonna get 2 inches. We're gonna have a winter weather advisory. So it's not just me calling this.
Yeah.
I would have to say that most of the general public is already looking at the weather and know this is coming.
Yeah. I see a lot of problems that, a lot of different scenarios where this could be an issue where, hey, we were on vacation for 4 days and the car was parked there and it ended up getting towed. We can't predict the weather, so we are going to be wrong part of the time. And like you said, part of the wrong, we're going to get a heck of a snowstorm when we didn't expect it and still have the original issue anyway.
And I feel, I don't make the decision, but I'm just saying, your example of vacation, that's something that I don't think we should tow that vehicle and make that guy pay that. If they're out of town, then it's gone. But if you're leaving on vacation and it's winter time, your vehicle should be up in your driveway already.
Yeah.
Not if you don't have one.
Well, if you don't have one, yeah, but.
And that's where I'm saying we might have to revisit if this doesn't work in a certain
But
block
we're
or
giving
a
the
certain-
option of parking lots to put those vehicles.
Just to finish up, and I do think the communication side of it, I know we've just started to develop that piece where we can have a more direct connection with citizens, but I don't think we're there yet, or at least we don't have that database built at this moment. So I'm in favor of this in principle. I just see there's a lot of road bumps we're going to hit actually utilizing that this year. And so am I willing to go along with that and say, hey, we're trying this and let's see how it works? Yeah, I think I would be. But I think we're going to have to really, really put out a lot of communication if we're going to try to do that this year. Especially just to even get people signed up so that they get the communication. That's going to take a long time. And then being on it with, here is the exact procedure that's set so people know how they're going to get it, when they're going to get it. They don't have to worry about it if they went to work at 8. They never have to worry that at 9 they're going to have to find some way to come home because there's a 2 o'clock snowstorm coming. And I know those are all things we can work through. We're going to have to all agree, like, we're going to have to roll through that, especially the first year. It's going to be tough.
You don't have to, alternate street parking, I know we don't want to go there. In larger communities works extremely well as well. One winter, we simply had police department put warnings on every vehicle that was left out there. Come the next season, we did one warning and started issuing tickets. There's different ways that you can utilize it. You need to be off the street, snow emergency was declared, you put a warning on there, and you notify people. There's different ways that we can implement it. This is a common practice in most communities.
What about just throwing an idea out there, because there are some people that don't have another option. Is there any way, if they qualify, to use any LMI set aside for help with pouring of some kind of parking facility for those people? If we're going to implement this.
But it's certainly something, I want to bring back an additional element or housing program. I hadn't included driveways so far. You could include driveways, but even on those areas, I passed one of them today that you're talking about. The house is there. There's no garage. The grass goes back to the alley. They can pull over in the grass. During the snow emergency.
Yeah, you're not wrong, but wow, is that tough to get in and out of?
Right next to the alley?
Yeah. I wouldn't want to park in my grass back there.
Don't have to. But there's not that many. A vast majority that I walked around had either, way too many of them were gravel, but they did have a parking area that was gravel.
Do Artillery Street too. They do it all.
Regular driveway. We've got way too many gravel driveways. But this is, most of them had somewhere off street that they could park. Vast majority.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they didn't count a ton. It was, like I said, like 7. But
We'll have 3 readings.
That's up to council. 3 readings, 2 readings, you put out the notices. Because you don't want to put out the notices necessarily until it passes. You could do 2 readings and wait the 3rd, and then start getting the notices out. You could do the 3 readings and put the notices out if we're just going to do warnings the first year. I mean, that would certainly give us a test year. There's no penalty, which can be a problem, but it's an option.
At least we would.
Things definitely need to change is who can call.
We did.
That's in the
Yeah, I know
changes.
that's in there,
Right.
but-
No, we changed it to city administrator, public works
but
director,
it's
or
not
his
changed
designee.
ordinance-ly. It's-
No, that would be in the changed ordinance.
Right. So the ordinance needs change.
Yes,
Definitely.
yes.
Because right now.
No matter what.
Only
Yeah.
the council member that's in charge of the streets department and the public works director can call.
Which we don't really
And
have.
we don't have.
That's a outdated practice.
That's an outdated practice that should be
Right.
changed a long time ago. I apologize for not doing it.
Thank you,
But
Hans.
maybe you need to add the mayor's name.
We put city administrator, public works director, or their designee.
You can't designate the mayor. The mayor can designate you.
They're his designee.
I think it should also, it should include the mayor.
John? I'm going to go here, and then I'll come back to you, okay? Teresa,
Okay.
do you have any comments that you want to make on this process we've been doing?
Well, I've pretty much lived here all my life, and I remember back in the days in high school when a snow emergency was called, and we waited for the trucks. When we saw the snow trucks, we got in our cars, and we pulled out, snowplows came through, and we pulled back in. I mean, and I have several neighbors that think grass is a parking area in the yard, so, I mean, they'll find a way, they're parking in the grass now without a snow emergency, so I'm thinking, it's not gonna make much difference.
And I only mention that because it's a temporary option, for the, until they get past, I mean, they shouldn't park there permanently, but yeah, I understand.
And normally it's froze, normally, but not all the time. Well, I think as it makes it easy for the Works Department, it makes it complicated and very hard for the citizens. Although, with that said, we have a job to do, and we have a job to keep the roads clear. I think that we should be able to contact the mall or somebody for alternative parking during these few days that we're going to have, and let the citizens be able to park their car over there, and somehow not make it permanent parking so that they're over there for 30 days. You know, make it so that they can get off, because not everybody has parking for a second car if it ain't in the right of way.
Now you're putting that on the business that pays for removal. Now they have.
Exactly. You're absolutely right.
When you're talking no more people than that doesn't have this option, I don't have a number, but the amount of parking stalls at Community and at Pat Klein, I think we can cover the people that need places to put vehicles on city property.
Like where?
I just
Well,
said, Community Park, all the way around the pool, back to Ball Diamonds, Pat Klein parking.
So now you're gonna clean that?
That's the last thing I clean. That's what I'm
You're
saying.
gonna clean that so that
Yes,
they can park there.
every time they move their vehicles back to their homes, then the parking lots get cleaned. That's on the end of the list, last things we do.
The intent they would be parked there before the bad snow came.
Exactly, but they have to pull back out after the bad storm.
Like they would if they were parked on the street, though.
Exactly. The other problem with that whole scenario is not everybody has a second parking when there's 6 inches of snow in the alley and you've went through there and you've pushed the snow this way and you pushed the snow that way to go back in the alley as you were talking
It's
earlier.
no different than sitting on the street and I come by and put 6 to 8 inches all the way around their vehicle.
No, but they have to move the car now. They have to move the car. It is different because they have to get it back there.
If they did
For
move
the
it,
emergency.
they got the same problem now.
if they don't have to, if
That's
we don't
gonna
have
be-
a snow removal, they don't have to move their car.
But they
There's
got
no
the
issue.
same issue. The drift's all the way around when I go around them. That issue's gonna be no matter if we call a snow emergency, that issue will be in the street where it's parked, or it'll be on the alley where they've moved to. That's an issue that you're gonna deal with when we come by and clean, or you get wind and blow and drifting. We're not adding an issue to them. They have to work with that, whether they're parked in the street or parked in the alley. Or if the wind blows and they're all parked at the pool and it drifts between the cars, it's wintertime, it's Iowa.
It's Iowa. I understand that, Mike.
We never had a motion on this. So
I'm not done.
I'm
Mayor.
sorry.
Sorry.
You just put the ordinance on at the next agenda meeting, you can take action on it.
So I guess if you want my vote, we need to provide people with some kind of parking, alternative parking,
We did the park part.
and it could be the pool, it could be the park, it could be over in the parking area where McPherson's are, you know, it can be several places. It's still gonna interrupt their daily life, but life is full of disruptions, okay? I have really mixed feelings on this one. I do. I have mixed feelings because of the timetable of 4 o'clock in the morning and it not being declared till 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock. And now they get, so if you want me to go along with it this year, and see how it trials out, there won't be no fines.
I've explained that 3 to 4 times. These will be called early afternoon, not 6, 8 o'clock at night.
I'm saying because of so many unknowns, Mike, we won't find people this year. We will get the system fixed and work. Let them sign up for the program where we text them, where we email them. You know, we've got the new program where we can do all that stuff and see how that works. And, you know, we can give them notices, but we're not giving them fines.
People tend to think that once it's in that book, that it's final. You want to change the program, you change the program. It's very simple. It's an
I understand
ordinance.
it's simple.
Ordinances can be
We're
changed.
God. I mean,
Try
you
something
are.
and doesn't work, you tweak it and move on. It's a very simple process.
The simple thing is tweaking it, whether you tweak it for this reason or that reason. And we need a year to tweak it. Bring it back next year with fines if it brings a problem. I can go along with that.
Mike, when did you say you would declare a snow emergency?
As early as possible. All these storms are coming at us the day before. And that's why I said I can only do it as early as possible for the convenience of the citizens to move their vehicles. But there's going to be storms that I don't call it, and then it hits us when it wasn't, and I'm going to call it when it's supposed to hit us and it don't hit us. You got to understand that.
But you're not gonna call it at 3 o'clock in
It
the
says
morning.
between 6 a.m., it's 2 hours, at least 2 hours after it has been announced to the public, between 6 a.m. and 10:30 p.m.
Okay.
So you can't call it in the middle of the night before.
So you can't call it 3 o'clock in the morning when you're
You
up
can
running
change
around?
it to 8 a.m. to.
I can call you at 3 in the morning, Teresa, if you want me to.
No, thank you.
That's just what it says.
You know, I can see the benefit for the city. I can also see the hardship on everybody else that you have to move. And Mike, before you say anything, I understand that we see those snowstorms coming, okay? And I honestly see that your issue about going in and around another car, and I do.
But you don't think it's a benefit for the citizens to have it gone and be done versus coming home and parking down the street where I could get to the curb and having all that frozen stuff in front of their house? It would be a one-time thing and everybody could get to the curb.
That would be okay if that person isn't already on their way to work or that other person worked a third shift and is coming home and now has to get up because they.
What I'm saying is,
just moved.
I feel like you're
I mean, there's all kinds
you're
of
insinuating this is being done to just help me. It's not just to help me. It's to clean it completely for the citizens. I'm not getting the full advantage. Yes, I'm doing it in a timely manner and less overtime, but they also will be able to park anywhere in front of their house, curb to curb, without driving up on frozen stuff on the road.
Oh, Mike, I didn't mean it that way. I said it was a benefit for you. And, you mentioned that you come by the second time and you can break equipment because it's froze. Just like the people that you put snow on the sidewalk and now it's ice, they break equipment trying to get that snow removed. I understand that part.
And the benefit to the citizens is they're only gonna clean their driveway once, not that day, and the next day when I come back and remove where I couldn't get it. So there's a benefit to both on this. It's a clean sweep, everybody's got their street open.
Well, I'm going to say, since we have this as a discussion, we've all had an opportunity to say something on it. And since it wasn't a motion, we can have this on the agenda for next week. You can vote yea or nay as you see fit on this, but it gives you a week to think about it. And any changes that we've made with it, we'll make sure that those are a part of this. But since this was just an open discussion, I don't think we need to continue any further. Unless I'm hearing something from the council.
I'm good with that.
Okay. With that then, we have kind of concluded the new business. Do I have any discussion from citizens that want to say something at this point?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to invite council members, there's a third party meeting this Friday, starts at 8 o'clock. I can't hear.
Thank you.
Hans, how's that going now, if I can ask?
We're on the reduced schedule.
Can't hear you.
Cape areas. And hopefully, we need, in order to do a full schedule, we need to have 3 pilots designated for Burlington. And right now, they only have 2 pilots designated. But yet, they pulled out of Quincy. Another carrier's taken over Quincy, and we're also out for bids for Central Air Service to get seating in another carrier. And it's still going to have to be 3 pilots that are stationed or designated. The biggest thing right now is there's a need for approximately 13,000 pilots in the United States, and only 7,000 of them are in training. So, the kids that are wanting to get into flying, get them going. And the other big thing is the amount of hours to get into the left seat. It used to be you could get into the left seat between 500 and 750 hours. With a couple of the crashes that happened a few years ago, the feds have raised that amount up to 1,500 hours. Left seat, you can get into the right seat at $500, but it also costs you a lot of money to get those flight hours. But we're also looking to see if there's any retired pilots in the area, and there are quite a few that might want to fly, on a temporary basis for Cape Air. And we've talked with their CEO a couple of times, and they are open to that, and they will train them. So we'll see what happens. But from my understanding, and I don't have the figures yet, but since we went this reduced schedule in July, there's only been up to the end of or beginning of September, there was only like 2 or 3 cancellations, and one was due to weather, and the other 2 were due to mechanical problems. Where when we were using the full schedule, they just didn't have a pilot, so they were canceling close to 50, 60 flights a month.
So is the numbers up, Hans?
I don't know, I'll find that out Friday, for got the packet on the phone, but I haven't got down that far yet. People are flying, yeah, the planes are full.
The planes are full.
The flights that are going out to Chicago and St. Louis and coming back are full.
Sure would like to keep that.
Okay,
Meetings Friday, if anybody wants to attend. Third Fridays.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
Support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Stand adjourned.
Aye.